that when it's ready to go. And then after you're done with each filter, just turn it off.
Okay, how's this? So Tristan is in the back running some of the cameras. We also have Holly Dilmuth, who is our timer for tonight. And we have Samantha Tipler, who is covering the event for us down in front. Tonight we're here from the candidates Kelly Minty Morris, Bob Moore, and Jeff Houston. They will be questioned by reporter Nora Avery Page and myself. Just as a reminder, please turn off your cell phones or at least put them on mute so we don't interrupt the meeting. Each of the candidates will be giving a 2-minute opening statement and a brief closing statement at the end. Please no jeering or cheering or any kind of noise making during the event if you would. So let's meet the candidates. Kelly Minty Morris, Bob Moore, and Jeff Houston. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, and we will have an opening statement from Mr. Houston first.
Good evening. Why is Jeff Houston asking for your votes to become your next county commissioner? It's not for money. When I'm elected as your next county commissioner, regardless of the outcome of the proposed charter, I'm on the record as stating I want no pay for my services. I will be giving 100% of my salary over to local charities. It's not for ambition. I only desire to serve as your humble public servant at the pleasure of the citizens of this county, as long as they wish me to do so. I will also solemnly swear that I will not be using this office to run for any other office in the future as others have done or will do, period. It is not for glory, social recognition, or power. My only glory comes from my salvation from sin. My only social life is my 12-step recovery program in church, and the only power I want comes from my continuing to stay sober a day at a time and making a daily decision to turn my life and my will over to my Father in heaven. So why am I a candidate for county commissioner? Ask Kathy, a business owner in Klamath Falls, who asked me to serve because she wants someone who has actually owned a business to be our next county commissioner. Ask Tom from Malin, a farmer who knows, I understand the needs of our ag community. I've worked on local farms and ranches, including my grandmother's, and have even exported USA agricultural products overseas. Ask Dan from Bonanza, a veteran who knows I not only support and serve our local veterans, I am one myself. And finally, ask the hundreds of my grateful neighbors who appreciate me taking the initiative and cold calling dozens of businesses looking to relocate. One of them, an electric car company, came, likes what Klamath County has to offer, and has made an offer on some property. They are close to announcing their acquisition and their plans to build an assembly plant close to town that will eventually employ hundreds of our neighbors. So when you want to know why Jeff Houston will be your next county commissioner, ask your neighbors, church members, and friends, and they will tell you that when you elect Jeff Houston as your next county commissioner, you will elect someone with true Christian compassion, courage, and commitment to serve all of Klamath County for a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Hello. I guess it's on now. My name is Bob Moore. I got to keep this up here, pull away. I'm a conservative candidate for the county commissioner's position. I'm a highly motivated professional with an MBA in management and over 20 years of corporate management experience for a large utility company. I have a large amount of experience in developing and administering budgets, contracts, cost estimates, strategic planning, and forecasting. All of these are very well needed in our county to try and see if we can turn around some of the economic problems that we do have. My job as commissioner will be to secure new business to Klamath County. As a commissioner, I'll work towards improving accessibility to government for all citizens of the county. I also will be working towards reducing unneeded regulations that hamper and curtail the development that we do have currently. Increasing property values. I think that's very important. We've lost a lot of that with our economic downturn. Promoting positive economic development and business growth. Also, I will be dealing with looking at our natural resources and where we can utilize those most effectively in benefiting the people and our citizens of Klamath County. I am also a person who is very well engaged in our community. I'm a 7-year planning commissioner with Klamath County. I'm also elected to the Keeneland Rural Fire Protection District as a director. So you can see the engagement, and as long as I've been directors in many other organizations and president.
Thank you. If you just wrap it up, that'd be great. Please try to keep it to 2 minutes for the opening, okay? Thank you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kelly Minty Morris, and while I humbly asked for your vote, I do so feeling a lot of pride tonight. As I have had the opportunity to talk to so many people about our community, I am confident that our potential far outweighs any problems we have. And yes, we do have a few problems, but I'm so very confident that if we work together, we could do better. You've probably heard, as I have, people say things disparagingly, like naming us Clam Meth Falls. Probably everybody's heard that. Or maybe they've heard us referred to as Clam-tucky. But while I've heard some of those expressions, I've also heard amazing things, like us being called an international leader of energy. Right here at Oregon Tech, literally the first campus in the nation, in the world rather, to be off the grid at some point. We're also a leader in rural medicine. Exciting things happening at Stanford Pediatric Clinic, Sky Lake starting a new wellness program, OHSU possibly starting a rural campus here. We're a technological powerhouse. So many communities are envious of having a gem like Oregon Tech in our backyard. And we're abundant in natural resources. It is exciting to hear groups like the Klamath Trails Alliance who have amazing plans for better leveraging our natural resources. But there are a few areas that we could do a little better in, and the areas that are a priority for me, first one, jobs and economic development. We could be developing clusters of industry and become a leader in developing the technologies to recycle, store, and save water. We need water for agriculture. It's a great fit. We could provide incentives for local grads to stay here and start businesses. And we need to provide leadership to not only maintain but expand the mission at Kingsley Air Base. There are opportunities in cyber that are a good fit here. The second priority for me is a safe and attractive community with good schools. This feeds into economic development. I would be honored to have your vote, and a vote for me is a vote for Klamath County's future.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Okay, we will start with the first of several questions. We make sure, folks, that you keep it to a minute and a half. I know it's going to be tight, but we have a lot of issues to cover here, okay? And the first question comes from Nora to Jeff Houston.
Like Jerry said, this first question is to Jeff. What county services do you feel are absolutely essential, and at what level would you fund them? Feel free to comment on the current jail funding issue. For example, would you use road funds this year to fund it, or reserve funds? Other topics include funding for the senior center, museums, and library. How would you vote on those issues? We'll go to Jeff first, then Bob, and then Kelly.
Well, obviously, I believe that public safety is number one. How would... I'm sorry. Obviously, I would fund public safety first. I think that that is the foremost job of the county. So that would be number one in my opinion. How I would fund it, I would not use the road reserve fund. I feel that, again, that's, going back over a bridge that was only meant to be crossed one time. And I think that we need to find new and create new revenue streams for the county. We haven't even looked at that. There is one aspect of the public safety budget that I would like to see expanded, and that would be with regard to prevention and treatment. I know that the costs of prevention and treatment are maybe 1/7 of what incarceration and prosecution cost our county. So your second part of your question, how would I vote with regard to the museum, correct?
It's just a topic to cover.
Okay. I really do believe that the museum levy should pass. I am going to be voting for it personally myself. And the other question, I'm sorry? Well, you had three parts. The third part?
We're at time, so we're going to go to Bob.
Okay, thanks.
Hello. Okay, public safety, I think everybody's concerned about public safety. Public safety is of the utmost importance to our community, and I, myself, will do whatever is needed to be done to ensure safety to all of the citizens of the county, and by keeping open the jail and also functioning as well as we can with the monies that we have. We do run into a problem. It's being funded out of a general fund, and a general fund is underfunded. It's already being taken to task by all the public safety units, such as the Justice Court, the district attorney, my mouth is dry, staff, the sheriff has patrol and jail, and the juvenile and the emergency services. They all are pulling on that general fund as well as all county government. So it's been pretty well depleted. Our tax base has gone down, but I think that we need to keep that going. If we're going to have investors come into this community, we got to have a healthy community with very strong law enforcement so that they will look at us twice instead of flying on to Hillsborough. So I think that's all I'm going to say at the moment. I do support maintaining that jail. It's important to my plans on the economic development things I'm looking at. Secondly, on the museum fund, we're already paying that amount, and I think they have done a good job. I'm a strong believer in maintaining the history of a community, and if we lose that, that could take some of that away, and I think that's too valuable. We got to look at the total value of the organ. Anyway, apparently my time is up, so we'll cut it off at that point.
I currently serve on the Klamath County Budget Committee. In fact, just about 2 hours and 15 minutes ago, we wrapped up for the day. And I'll tell you, we've got some really tough decisions ahead of us this year. There are large increases in things like retirement costs and medical costs and things that make the cost of doing business, if you will, or maintaining the service levels that we all enjoy go up each year. So these are tough times. I have always said that public safety is the #1 job of government. It is what we all expect. We all expect someone to show up at our door if, God forbid, we have to call 911. We all expect that. So I have been someone who, in the last year as a member of the Budget Committee, and this year as well, I've spoke to this, that I do support using road reserves to fund public safety. Because you have to look at it as you would, in some respects, you have to look at it as you would your own home budget. It's very important to set aside reserves for things that you may need, but if you're setting aside money in case your engine on your car breaks, but then the water heater at your house goes out, you would fix that. We can't dismantle our public safety system while we sit there on such a large road reserve. You also asked about the museum. I've said publicly many times that I support the museum. If we don't preserve our history, nobody else will. The very small price tag, about $7 for the average taxpayer a year, so I do support that.
Okay, thank you. The next question starts with Bob, and then we go to Kelly, and then to Jeff. What does leadership mean to you? The current commission insists it won't make any major taxing decisions unless it knows beforehand what the public wants, thus asking local groups to obtain signatures for any kind of ballot issue, rather than putting it on the ballot themselves. Is this leadership in your eyes? What would you do? And would you be willing to raise property taxes to fund those services deemed essential?
I think I got most of your question. Yes, leadership is very important, and that's something we all need, and it's something that I have been living with for well over 20 years and all the different involvements that I've had in corporate and in nonprofit organizations. I've been involved in the budgeting for over 20 years, so budgeting is not something I'm unfamiliar with. The leadership, the style of leadership that I have, while I was going to college, my college didn't come all at one time. It came over a portion of my career. And I used the employees that I worked with to see what worked and what didn't work. So I got a good insight on how leadership should work, how to use my informal leaders, how to use the other assets that I had to make my departments very successful, and I always had the best departments in that particular division of the corporation. So leadership is something I already have and I possess, and the experience to go along and using it. And that's the thing that I'm promoting. I'm not somebody who's going to be learning it. I've already have it, and I can use that and share that with the county to try and develop the better things that we need to make the county a much more efficient operation and see if we can get our economic development turned around. I saw her. I guess I still have a second or two. I'm sorry. But yes, this is, I think, very important, and we need to make sure that we are working together with our private enterprise people, and as a commissioner, I will be working to try and open the doors for private enterprise to be able to improve on the economic development parts of the program that our community needs.
If you hire me as your next commissioner, I commit to protecting and serving you. And that means making tough decisions sometimes, sometimes decisions that may not be popular with a few, but are really the right thing to do. And I will not promise you that I would never support an effort that might cost you a little more in taxes. And trust me, I know, we all pay a lot in taxes, and nobody wants to pay more. But there are opportunities where we need to look at whether it's valuable to make an investment in our community. And I think at times it is important that we invest in our community. So if an opportunity came before me that I sincerely believed, after conversing with you, because I am going to be somebody that takes a lot of feedback from the public and has an open door with you and has a relationship with you. But after getting that feedback, if I feel comfortable that people also agree that this is a good investment of our community, I will be a leader and I will put something on the ballot that needs to go on the ballot. And I won't make everything go through the signature process if I, as your elected leader, think it's appropriate.
I think leadership is essential to this job. That's why when the COPS initiative failed to get enough signatures, I actually went to our current commissioners and pleaded with them to put it on the ballot as an advisory initiative. They had that ability. They chose not to do that. Shame on them for not doing that. They should have just put it on the advisory ballot as an advisory initiative and let the people decide. It's like they don't trust us. And I think that was a mistake. I also said that they should have put the parks initiative on the ballot as well as an advisory initiative too, because they were only short 100 signatures. That showed a willingness and an intent on the part of you to see that on the ballot. They didn't have to endorse either one of these initiatives, but they could have put it out to you for your vote. And I thought that was important, and I'm on record as doing that and requesting that of them. That's the type of leadership that you'll get with me. Bottom line, I'll do what's right. So, thank you.
Okay, the next question will go to Kelly first. What is your vision for economic development? Do you have a plan that would provide jobs at a living wage without degradation of our air quality, health, and environment? Give us some concrete examples of what you would do or not do and why.
I'm really glad you asked that, because this is the issue that I think we should be spending the majority of our time talking on, because, make no mistake about it, when we do better economically, these things that we care about, law enforcement and schools, we're able to fund those without going back to the public and asking for dollars. So in terms of concrete ideas, I'd like to see us transition to a different model for economic development. Currently, the way we do it, we have one agency with one or two people working on it, and it is a really big job. I'd like to see us transition to the Deschutes County model, where they bring in 12 to 16 business leaders, people who pay to play. They pay between $2,500 and $7,500 to be on this group, but they're people with business experience who can help guide the process. We need to be leveraging all the talent in this community to help in our economic development efforts. A second concrete thing we could do to improve economic development is develop an incentive program to keep college graduates here. We have some of the best and brightest college grads coming out of Oregon Tech right here in KCC. And what we do is we provide them with a high quality education, and then they leave this community with small incentives to help forgive part of their student loans upon graduation. Many of those bright students would stay here, would invent things here, would create things here, would start small businesses. If I had more time, I would provide for you a couple other concrete ideas, but those are two concrete things that I would do as soon as elected.
Thank you. I'm about creating jobs, not committees. I don't think committees create jobs. In fact, I know they don't. Businesses create jobs. Governments don't create jobs. Businesses do. The job of our local government is to create and to allow a climate, an atmosphere that is conducive to doing business. And right now, that's not happening. Right now, we kind of send out mixed messages. Bring your money, but we're going to be difficult to deal with. We have to open up the door, roll out the red carpet for business. I've been in business for a long time, and I'm getting ready to start a new business right now. And I was looking at office space today. And the thing about business is that you have to be able to create, like I said, an environment that shows that Klamath County is ready for business, open for business. I think all of our marketing strategy with the county needs to be redone. We need to reinvent ourselves. And the essence of jobs is that the other problems that we face here in this county, like crime and substance abuse, things like this, if people are working in living wage jobs, then the likelihood of them going out and breaking into your car or using drugs are much less. Jobs are the answer to all of our problems here in this county. Thank you.
Economic development, a very complex issue. It affects the whole cross-section of our community. So it's not one simple little thing. You can't say doing this item or that item is going to do it. It's going to take a whole community to work together with the knowledgeable people that we have, and government working with them in conjunction with trying to develop these type of economical programs. We have people coming in here all the time to take a look at us. We don't have an economic development program. It's not even written into our government at the level that we need to dedicate to that. We put money into it, but we're not seeing anything in return. Our values here are not being met. As has been pointed out, they touched on a whole bunch of little things, workforce, trying to keep people here. But the thing is, not one model is going to work here. The Deschutes model may not work for us today in Klamath Falls. It's going to have to be something unique to our community and unique to the people of our community. We have a lot of resources. We're blessed to have a great amount of energy sources. We've got the 500 power grid. It runs up and down through the backyard of our community. We have gas. We have potential geothermal. We have transportation corridors. We have 2 railroads. How many communities even have 1? These are all things that you wonder, with all of this resource that we have, along with our high educational institutions that we have at KCC and here at OIT, why we're not doing better.
Thank you very much. The next question's for Jeff, and then Jeff, Bob, and Kelly. Okay. Jeff, what do you think of the proposed charter that includes funding for a paid county administrator and reduction in pay and hours for the commissioners? Do you support it? Why or why not?
I did support it originally. I don't now. The reason I supported it initially is that I do believe that having a paid full-time county administrator is a plus for our county. It's a plus for any county, especially with one that has $250 million worth of a budget. I don't feel that the way that the charter is written is an effective piece of legislation. I don't think that the intent of the charter is honorable as well. I think that the intent of the charter is actually to diminish the role of our county commissioners, our elected officials, and I don't buy that. And I don't think you should either. So when it comes to the salary, that's not an issue for me. As I said, that I would donate my salary. I do not want a salary for serving. I want to serve as a citizen statesman like our founding fathers did. So that's really not an issue for me. But you know, I don't think that the cause-link relationship between having an administrator and having lower unemployment is a reality. I think that that is a weak argument. I think that it's a coincidence that you'll find that there are counties with county administrators that have high unemployment and low unemployment. So, no, I do not support the charter proposal, and I would urge all of you to vote no as well. Thank you.
The charter. I've been involved with charters, the last charter. This one here, unfortunately, the timing is extremely wrong. We have a budget that these costs will come out of. It'll take away from the Sheriff's Department's money. It'll take away from other county governments' money. So it's something we have to be concerned about. The timing, maybe at another time, and put together a little differently without all of the language difficulties that I have when I read the charter, possibly would be better. It is a poorly written document, and it will be harmful to the citizens of Klamath County. Like I mentioned, the timing is wrong, and we need budget stability. The county administrator's staff and office costs will increase in the general government portion of the overburdened, underfunded general funds budget, which will be negative impact of the underfunding of the public safety portion of our sheriff's budget. Increasing commissioners' expense accounts. Do we need that? I don't think so. That was not a wise decision, in my opinion. Being a part-time commissioner will not help for the commissioners to be able to get out and be engaged with the citizens of Klamath County to try and recover economically or anything else. We have to be engaged as commissioners. The charter will reduce the cost-benefit value in time, at this time. It's not there. We have to be careful when we get into these type of situations. There's a little bit of emotion on this particular one, and I believe at this point in time it's not the right thing for the people of Klamath County, and I'm going to be voting no.
Well, I want to start by complimenting the woman all the folks who worked tirelessly in their efforts to try to improve government. And the woman at the helm of that is Kate Marquez, who's here tonight. And I really commend her on all her hard work, because what she's doing takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, and she's doing it for the right reasons. However, that said, I don't support the charter, and here's why. As a member of the Klamath County Budget Committee, I can tell you that the areas of the budget that the costs are increasing the most quickly are in administration and medical costs, and this plan raises both of those. And this is at a time where we as Budget Committee members are facing things like, do we lay off prosecutors in the district attorney's office? Do we lay off sheriff's deputies? Do we close the jail? To me, I would not feel comfortable increasing administrative costs while we dismantle public safety. I'm also concerned about our political representation. I know, and you know, that your county commissioners are your political representation in places like Salem and Washington, D.C. We know that the policies enacted in those places affect our livelihood. You need strong, full-time commissioners to develop those relationships and to fight the good fight. And finally, I'm concerned about the accountability. As somebody who worked in the media formerly, I can tell you that you have a lot greater access to your government when you have access to a public official versus a bureaucrat.
Thank you. Now it's time for each candidate to ask a question of their opponents. We'll start with Bob. Bob, please ask a question for Kelly and Jeff to answer.
Okay, they caught me off guard on that one. Well, Kelly keeps touting her budget experience, and as far as I can see, she really has no budget experience. Myself, I got over 20 years of very diverse budget experience, Most budgeting, the basic principles are very much the same, and you adapt them to whatever the particular sector that you're dealing with. She's had 1 year of about 38 hours, I guess is what it amounts to, of direct budgetary process according to the county officer. And this year she hasn't got any. So basically, her budget experience is pretty small. So I would like to have her tell us why she thinks with that little amount of budget experience that she can really be the professional she alludes to be in regard to our county budget, which is in very dire straits.
Well, I'm really glad Bob asked that question, and it's ironic in that he got a lot of the numbers wrong even in that question. I served on the budget committee last year, and we were there, we worked on the budget just in budget hearings for a little over a month. That doesn't even include the hours that went into the pre-hearings, if you will, where we were learning about this year's budget. I estimate we probably spent somewhere between 150 and 200 hours on last year's budget. I am currently on the budget committee. Again, lots of prep leading into it, and in fact, I spent 8 hours just today. So I have the 2 years now of dealing with an apples-to-apples comparison of what I'm asking you to hire me to do. It's one thing to say you have budget experience on something else. It's quite another thing to handle the complex budget that is the county budget and comes in a notebook about this big. You know, again, I have apples experience with this. And prior to that, in my work at Citizens for Safe Schools, which I didn't get a chance to share in my opening, but I'm the communications and outreach manager. I work directly with the executive director, you know, as a manager on employee-related issues on our budget, which albeit is a lot smaller than the county budget, you know, as you would expect. But I've worked in budgeting in that capacity in my 4 years at Citizens for Safe Schools. I've worked in budgeting related to grants because I've written grants and then been the person to be held accountable to the funders. But the big experience is, you know, year 2 working directly on the county budget. The only candidate that's doing that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how on budget experience. Okay, I was going to say I don't know how he wants me to answer that, since it was directed to Kelly. I have budget experience in businesses that I have started from scratch, 2 actual wine and cheese stores, one in Seattle, one in Tacoma, back in the 70s. I also have budget experience owning and operating a wine and beer distributorship in Idaho. And I have budget experience in a startup company that exported American agricultural products overseas. We ended up with 3 overseas offices, one in Tokyo, one in Panama City, Panama, and one in London, and 2 in the United States, one in New York City and one in San Francisco. We had at one time over 300 employees worldwide, and I was the president and CEO of that company. So that is the budget experience that I have, Bob, and I have no budget experience with this county government. And as a matter of fact, with the budget fiasco that happened last year and that I can foresee on the horizon with this year, I think actually putting down that you are part of the budget committee is like putting down the fact that you are an iceberg lookout on the Titanic. Not a good resume builder, Kelly. So, thanks.
Kelly, please ask a question of both Bob and Jeff.
Well, as you know, one of the captains on hitting the iceberg or whatever, as a member of the budget committee, we had, as I've said, some tough decisions ahead of us this year and also last year. One that was very controversial and in the news a lot was whether to continue our partnership with Meals on Wheels. Most of you probably know what that is, but if you don't, it is for many seniors the only meal they'll get in a day, and oftentimes the only contact they'll have with a person in any given week. The county had previously been making a $50,000 per year partnership with the senior center to provide that. I was the only person on the budget committee that voted to continue that partnership because I thought that promise to our seniors was important. So I would ask each of you, would that be something that you would have voted for? And if so, why not? Or if not, why not?
Pardon?
Okay, I'd be glad to. Meals on Wheels are an important service to our seniors in our community. I grant you that. But I, for one, do not believe, as a true fiscal conservative, that it is the responsibility of our local government to bear the burden of these social programs. I just don't. I think that it's the role of nonprofits in our community and as well the role of our faith-based community to take care of needs like this. So I would have had to make an unpopular decision had I been on the budget committee or had I been a county commissioner, and I would have had to say, I'm sorry, my principles would not allow me to go ahead and vote for this because I do believe that it's not the role of government to be involved with social programs. Like I don't believe it's the job of government to be involved with business. Business should take care of business, and our nonprofits and faith-based organizations need to take care of our social problems. So I would have said no, but sorry.
That's a good question, Kelly, but the thing is we have mandates of what we use our budget monies for. The budget does not cover the areas that you discussed as a mandate. Yes, if we had plenty of money, our budget was full, then yes, I could see where we could share those monies with those areas. I tend to agree with Mr. Houston here on this particular question a little bit, in that we do have, and we used to years ago, through various other organizations, take care of our elders and the other parts of Meals on Wheels and so forth. These are important to our community, and I believe the community itself should take that up and help that. Mark has done a very good job. He's getting the monies to be able to carry that on. Maybe once we get our economy done and we can look at it and spend some other monies outside of the scope of what our mandatory areas of our budget are concerned, that might be the time we can look at it. But right now, with a budget that's underfunded, we can't even afford to pay the sheriff's department, and we can't afford to take care of our jail. These are very important to us first. Our law enforcement comes first. I'm a strong believer in the senior program, the ag programs, and all these others because they have a big value to our community, and I'm willing, to donate to those like I do other type of charitable organizations. So with that, I would have to maintain that it's out of order to take monies out of a budget that has already constraints on it, and we are already underfunded. And at this point in time, it's not the wise thing to do or the prudent thing, and it shows a lack of leadership.
Okay, thank you. I am a devout pro-life Christian and an active member of Zion Lutheran Church here in Klamath Falls. I'd like to ask both of you, what is your stance on abortion, especially on taxpayer-funded abortion, which happens here in our state? And second part of the question is, do you go to church regularly? And the third part is, if so, where?
I'll tell you what, I'll leave it up to the candidates if they want to answer that or not.
I don't think that's an appropriate question for a forum when you're attempting to hire the person that will act as the CEO of your county. I just think that's an inappropriate question.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
I too agree that it is an inappropriate question. In government, we have many other responsibilities in our leadership and other things to do. We don't need to be dealing in those particular type of areas. And so I think that's probably all that needs to be said on that particular issue.
Okay. Well, moving on, this question's for Kelly, then it'll go to Jeff and to Mr. Moore. For Kelly, the question is, the recent healthcare studies put Klamath County at the bottom of the list in the state. What are your plans for moving the dial here?
Well, like most of you, it's really disappointing to me when I read statistics like that because I take so much pride in our community, and I know you do too, and we don't like seeing our name at the top of lists that are bad. What I think is important to note is that there are some really great efforts going on in this community already to help move that dial. And what I think our elected leadership could do is really be an advocate and a champion for those efforts. I certainly can't, as a county commissioner, solve all the health problems in our community. But what I can do is really champion things like the new wellness clinic that Sky Lakes that's in development in relation to Sky Lakes. That is an effort with very bright people to help tackle the childhood obesity issue. I can also be an advocate and a champion for things like I mentioned in my opening, the Klamath Trails Alliance, who are developing, these are volunteers. This is a non-profit, not government dollars. And they are working so hard to develop good infrastructure and good bike trails and things to where we can have places for people to ride bikes and people to get exercise. I also work for Citizens for Safe Schools. I mentioned I'm the communications and outreach manager. That is a direct effort to help children's health in that it works on providing mentors for kids. I think we need leaders that can be strong champions of all the great work that's already being done in our community to move that dial.
Health, that's a big problem. Klamath Falls needs a lot of work here. I'm a strong believer in nutrition, healthy bodies, but the county government, we've put a lot of that back into other hands. Where we're responsible, then we have to be a strong advocate in being able to promote that everywhere, even though where we don't have strings that says we have to do it, we should be promoting that. I'm for making sure that and advocating that people are fed, people have good nutrition, that we're not getting very poor quality foods out there. We have a big problem with the health that we have now, and that needs to be turned around. That goes on and it affects the whole health system that we have in our community, and we need to get the health system straightened around through the community effort and the organizations that are involved in the health program. And basically, I think the biggest part the county government has on this is promoting it and show strong support for the changes that need to be made to enhance the health of our community.
I've actually recently become a member of the Healthy Climate Task Force. I'm actually on the Substance Abuse Committee. One of my hats that I do wear is that I am the cooperation with the professional community chairperson for our 12-step recovery program in this area, as well as the public information officer for that same organization that is anonymous and will not be mentioned here. But I think that in my role, I see the fact that it's hard, number one, if you're poor, and 2 out of 3 people in our county are living at or below the poverty level, your health choices are pretty limited. If you're only getting a couple $100s for a family of 4 for food stamps, things like carbs go a lot further and a lot easier than healthy food, healthy choices. So I think that part of this whole equation goes back to jobs and having a thriving community again. The other thing is that when you're drunk or addicted to drugs, whether they're illegal drugs or prescription drugs, and almost 4 out of 5 people in our county, 3.7, are addicted to alcohol, illegal drugs, or prescription drugs that have brought them to the attention of either the legal establishment or the medical establishment. That's huge for this county. So I think that we really need to look at providing more treatment beds, and that's a big key component. So treatment beds and jobs.
Thank you all. This next question will start with Jeff and then Bob and Kelly. Klamath County has an image problem, from harboring drug homes in remote areas to being lax on zoning. The appearances of entryways to the county and city are a bit shabby. What should the commissioner's involvement be in strengthening the county's image so as to be competitive with the rest of the state?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question. That is my sweet spot. I just had the privilege of entertaining two companies that decided to come here and take a look at Klamath and make a decision whether or not they wanted to stay here. One of them, as I said, has decided to make an offer on a piece of property. The other one chose not to. And the reason that the other one chose not to was the fact that this is what they said to me. They said that their employees are used to a higher standard of living than we have in our county. And that was a sad thing to hear, very sad. It was also very difficult for me to figure out which access do I bring them into town that it doesn't look like something from, Appalachia or some third world country. We've got some really terrible access to our community. As a county commissioner, I would look at putting a moratorium on all dump fees for 1 year. And at the same time, I'd go ahead and promote a project, Clean Up Klamath, and get all this stuff into the landfill and out of our area, clean up Klamath. And at the same time, I'd go ahead and promote new ordinances with very, very severe fines. That at the end of the moratorium, if you hadn't cleaned up your business or your home or your ranch or your farm, you're going to be hit with some very severe fines. But you'd have 12 months in order to go ahead and take care of that. That's just an idea of what I would do. Thank you.
Yes, we do have quite a lousy image when we see the things in the paper about the health and the various groups of people that are abused. The county commissioners can do a lot to try to improve on these and encourage things to turn around on that fact. A lot of things, we don't have the money in the budgets, as was talked about here, regarding our community and the things that they have direct involvement with. We do have broken codes in some of our land use laws and things of that nature. Our code enforcement itself is one man. It's going to have to be enlarged if we do some of the other things. Yes, the image of Klamath County is not as good as it could be, but we have a lot of good people like the Travel Klamath that are working to improve that image. We have a lot of other organizations. As we look at economic development, that's going to be a big part of economic development. As I said, it's a very large facet of our community. To be able to have good economic development is the image that we have. And when people come in and they see these things, there's things that we can work with other state agencies and things of that nature, maybe to curtail or provide a better image when we come in. Promoting our positive assets, I think, is great. I'd like to see Dr. Chris Maples put a nice, beautiful OIT up here and really tell the story about OIT. And we've got a KCC college is coming on. It's something we should be very proud of. But we should take the positive things and try to let them overshadow some of the other items that we're being involved with in our community appearance. And I think that would make a much more happy community, and a happy community is a prosperous community.
Well, I do want to point out, so nobody leaves here thinking our image is 4 out of 5 people addicted to drug or alcohol. That statistic is actually between 10 and 15%. So I did just want to make that clarification so that you would not leave with that impression. But sure, we need to make our community look better. We are in a competition with every other community for resources. For people, for retirees to move here, for kids. We want our kids to stay here, right? So we need to look the best we can. The way I think that we could do this that would have no fiscal impact on the budget, because as we've said, these are tight fiscal times, we need to leverage the strength of our community's volunteers. That is one area that Klamath is unbelievably strong in. In my work in Citizens for Safe Schools, I'll provide you with an example. At Citizens for Safe Schools, we have 100 volunteer mentors. Now, to put that in context, you go to a large metropolitan area like Portland, and our partner agencies there, you want to know how many mentors they have? They also have about 100. The rate of volunteerism in Klamath County is phenomenal. So I would like to start a program that I tentatively call KHIP, the Klamath Housing Improvement Project. This would be a group of volunteers with county leadership, a group of volunteers that would go and clean up eyesores, that might paint a fence for an elderly person. We can do little things. You know that expression, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? we can do those little things to make our community look better using the resource that we already have, our wonderful volunteers.
Okay, this question's for Bob, and then Kelly, and then Jeff. Last year, the county commissioners were upset at the DEQ and the EPA because of the county had violated air quality standards 3 times due to wood smoke. What's your take on the air quality standards here, and what should be done in the county regarding this issue? Bob?
That's an excellent question. We are overburdened with government regulation. We are a magnet for things from around the world if people understand how airflows go. EPA is interfering with a lot of the things that is one of the biggest deterrents to our economic recovery. Myself, they hit us in the city regarding the sewer plant on a lake that's full of phosphorus, and they want us to clean the lake so we can have a sewer plant's effluent. They're not reasonable. Their standards are too stringent, and there should be a baseline that we'd be working off of and saying everything's going to be 2.5. We have a beautiful county. Our airs look clean. Granted, we do have particulate matter, but we don't have control over the stuff that comes from China or the Sahara Desert. And when we have things that circulate the earth, there are lots of things that come in here, and we draw them in because of the geography that we have here. So the thing is, I would like to see the EPA out of our lives. I would like to see the county being able to make those and the state to make those decisions on their own instead of the EPA over-regulating us and causing the detriment that they are causing in our community at the present time.
What I think would be really helpful when we tackle issues like this is for you to elect leadership that are good communicators, that are good relationship builders, and that are the kind of people that are solutions-oriented. I am somebody who would be more than happy to really develop some relationships and try to work with DEQ in order to do what we need to do to come into compliance. And at times when you're working with someone, you do have to put up a bit of a fight. And that's okay. I'm a fighter. I'm willing to do that when it's appropriate. But we need somebody that can communicate with those other levels of government, because as much as we need to fight against them sometimes, they're probably not going away. So we need to elect good communicators that can work those relationships.
This situation is actually costing us jobs. It really is. Since I started calling a different company Monday through Friday every day to ask them to come and give Klamath County a look, I've had over a dozen of them report to me about our problems with our air, that they don't want to move their employees into our area because they don't consider it a healthy environment. And so, you know, I think that a lot of it has to do with education, with the people who are burning, teaching them better ways to go ahead and operate their wood stoves more efficiently, more effectively. And so I think this is a very critical area. And you know, you're going to have to make some unpopular decisions in this job, and I'm well versed in that. Thank you.
All right, for this next question, we'll start with Kelly, and then Jeff, and then Bob. 58% of the county is federal land. The current county commission recently billed the federal government $8.2 million in back taxes for that federal land. Is this realistic? How would you work with the federal government on this and other issues in the county?
I actually thought that was a pretty clever idea by the Klamath County Commissioners to do that, because they should be paying us for those lands. Any other person, if it was my land, if it was your land, you would be paying property taxes on it. And that's a big issue in our budget each year, is that we do have so many of our lands under the federal government, so we need to be able to collect dollars on them. You have to remember that at one time we had a lot of timber mills in this county, and we had a lot more economic success in those days. And these days, things are much harder because we only have 3 timber mills in this county. So I thought that was a pretty creative idea. What I think the next step would be is to, again, use your relationships. We need strong representatives that work with our leaders in Washington to get our fair share on these issues. But it doesn't happen when we sit there and just kind of shake our fists in the air and spout off about it in this county. We need to be developing those relationships on those levels so that we can get some fairness on this issue, because it really is a fairness issue that would help develop more economic success for us in the future.
I too thought it was a very clever idea, kind of an exercise in futility. I can just imagine, the Fed saying, "Yeah, check this bill out here from Klamath County," and they got a good chuckle out of it. So it's not going to go anywhere. We have to deal with reality, whether or not we like it or not. One thing that I've learned as a recovering alcoholic is denial works. We can't deny the fact that the federal government owns these lands. And I don't see that they're going to just say, "Yeah, go ahead, we'll give it back to you." It's just not going to happen. Not in our lifetime, not in our grandchildren's lifetime, not in our great-grandchildren's lifetime. That legacy is there. As somebody who has worked for both parties and knows people in Washington, D.C., by the way, that is what helps me to open up doors when I'm calling businesses every day, are my connections that I made back in Washington, D.C. and in places around the country. So I would be on the phone to go ahead and try to plead our case. But, I truly, no, on second thought, I changed my mind. The whole thing about our local government is that we have to be able to stand alone and stand by ourselves, too. We can't keep looking to the federal government for our solutions. As a true fiscal conservative, I got to say, no, I pass. I think that we need to solve our problems of Klamath County ourselves. Thank you.
I think it was a feel-good effort on their part. I'd like to correct, we own the land. The government is running it for us, and not very well. We have a very sad forest. We have a very unfortunate situation and the management processes that are out there. I believe that it would be nice if we could get our legislators to agree, and they're the ones we have to work through. We don't get that much when we come out of our little groups and go back to Washington and expend taxpayer money here to promote something that they've already decided what they're going to do. But we do have elected officials that we put in there, and if we don't have the right ones, then maybe we need to look at those to be elected to represent us a little more effectively. Or maybe we should look at probably some of the lobbyists that are very active back there and playing the games with the federal government on what bill gets inside, what bill gets looked at. Extortion is a big effort back in the Washington, D.C. area, as well in the state government. So we think that we have all this power, or our vote, we don't. It's paid for by big money, the seats in the Congress, even the bills that get to the floor. It's done by a few power people, and the money that goes in there, that's the thing we got to turn around and get people in there that's going to be honest and work for us as our representatives.
Okay. This is the last question, and then we'll have closing statements from you all. We'll start with Jeff on this one. The 2 other county commissioners came into office on an anti-KBRA platform, among other things. This is a 2-part question. Where do you stand on the water agreements? Are you for or against them? And how do you plan to work with the other 2 commissioners once you get your agenda passed?
I too am actually anti-KBRA because I'm pro-jobs. Our agricultural industry here in this county is somewhere between 3 and 500 million, depending upon what statistics that you read. And so I think anything to support that industry is vital and necessary. I think that the current agreement that has been worked out with the tribes is a good effort. I think that I'm not surprised that the tribes approved it. I think that it goes, it's a first step in a healing process actually for this community. There's been a lot of rift over water here in this area. I was actually living here at the time of the 2001 water problem, and was managing my grandmother's ranch and had no water. So I experienced that. I was part of that brigade, the Bucket Brigade. I believe in anything that will bring us jobs. And I'm hoping that this agreement will help. Only time will tell. We are going to have a tough summer this year with the drought. A lot of my friends down in Po Valley are very concerned about what's coming up, and a lot of people aren't aware that this agreement won't even affect this year. So, and how I get along with the other two commissioners, just fine. Thank you.
KBRA, that's been a thorn in the side of our people for a long time. It's divided our farmers. It's divided our community. The thing about KBRA is that the county people, we weren't a very big stakeholder in this. We have more external people in the county, or out of the county, that have more influence over our water rights and our rights to the various things that impact the economic viability of our agriculture. And that's the only thing we really have left. And what it looks like right now, the Department of Interior is trying to destroy our agriculture with their quest to take over the rights of water throughout the nation. This, I don't think, is right, and I don't believe in it that well. The water rights, I think we did very well before, and I believe it was fairly done until the federal government started putting in this excess regulation on the people through their opinions. They won't justify them. They tried to get legislation through the state this last time on wells in the close proximity to certain rivers. And the state legislature that were in charge and had the power, they squelched all of that and left our farmers sitting out there in a desolated area that we're turning now from taxable land, irrigated land, to untaxable land. This is wrong, and I can't support the way the KBRA contract was written. I think it was not in the benefit of the people of Klamath Falls or Klamath County, and I'm a strong supporter of that, and I'm very engaged in trying to represent Klamath County the best that I can.
I support water for all of agriculture, all across the board, because what I'm most concerned about is our economic success in Klamath County. And our economic success in Klamath County is tied to the economic success of agriculture. That is a $550 million economic driver. Very important. I had some concerns about the KBRA. I will share that with you. But then the water adjudication process happened, and that was a game change. And folks had to get back at the table and get back after it. I really think we should look to folks who actually farm for guidance on this issue. And if the folks who actually make their living farming say that these agreements are the answer and that these agreements will bring them the most likelihood of having water and being able to farm and then being able to then pay taxes that support public safety and support public schools, then I'm going to stand with them on it. I am not going to stand against them because, again, water for all of agriculture is my top priority.
Okay, thank you. We will have closing statements from each of you. We'll start with Jeff. It's a minute and a half, and then we'll adjourn.
I want to thank you all for coming out here. I know that we all live very busy lives. This is an important step in our process of democracy, and I do want to thank you for your attention and your time tonight. I want to go on the record as disagreeing with my opponent regarding the substance abuse numbers, though. As the public information chairperson for an organization that gets these numbers directly from Salem, these numbers are correct because they also include people who have come into contact with the legal establishment and the medical establishment who have problems with prescription drugs. So it's not just drugs and alcohol, illegal drugs and alcohol, it's also prescription drugs. And we do have a definite problem. So, and the number that I received was 3.7 out of 5 here in this county have had a problem that brought them to the attention of either the legal establishment or the medical establishment. It's a huge problem. And, let's talk about that for a second in my closing remarks. Why is it so high? I'm in the trenches of this every day. And the reason that people tell me that they drink to excess or take pills or use illegal drugs is because they don't see that there's any hope here in Klamath County. I want to go ahead and provide a voice for them if I'm elected your next county commissioner so that they have a voice in county government and that we can move our economic indicators forward and make this a prosperous community for all of us. Thank you.
I, too, would like to thank all of you for coming. It's a great pleasure to see so many faces here. Some I know, some I do know. And we are lucky to have a great community because we have a wonderful county here in Klamath County, and we have so many places that we can enjoy with our assets. But one of the things that we haven't really talked about a little bit was great wonders outdoors, our hiking, our places that God gave us here to be able to really enjoy the benefits of our community. It's very, very important. But as your commissioner, I'll be committing to you, the citizens of Klamath County, years of academic knowledge and support by providing experience and knowledge gained over a lifetime. You're not getting it new from somebody else. I've been there. I've got many, many years of it. I'll be working towards, as I mentioned before, open access. If you have a problem, an uncertainty, I want you to come to me. I'll try to resolve that for you, at least let you know the reason why we can't do it, be it statutory or some other problem that's there. Reducing regulation, we come across that heavily. I'm a very strong person for reducing regulation. I've been 7 years on the Planning Commission, and I see the codes and stuff that we have that are obsolete, but we have not taken care of those yet. A lot of them are 1980 vintage, and they're in conflict with the other ones that we as a Planning Commission have to address. Increasing property values. This is something we've lost a lot on, and we need to get that back. And securing opportunities to put people back to work. As was pointed out, we as government don't create jobs. We create opportunities. And thank you very much for your time and patience in being here tonight and supporting us to be able to come before you.
Yes, thank you so much for being here this evening. I think it's time that we reimagine what Klamath County can be. We've always been traditionally a natural resource-based economy, and that's great. That's done well for us in the past. But as we move into the future, we need leaders that can be strong leaders to protect those things because those are important economic drivers. But we also need leadership that's going to move us towards diversifying into building up other clusters of industry. I like to reimagine Klamath, and I've done this with so many of you, as a place that, again, uses technology as a place to grow industry around, that uses medicine. And again, coupled with our natural resource-based economy, people talk about how great Klamath was in the heyday. We could be better in the future if we grow these other things in addition to our natural resource-based economy. What you have to decide when you fill out your ballot is, do you want to live in the past, or do you want a candidate that's going to take you into the future? It's a pretty, it's a pretty stark contrast. It's the choice to me is very clear. Again, if you want to move Klamath into the future, I would really like to work for you. I get it that as an elected leader, you're my boss. I work for you, but I also want to work with you. I know there's a ton of talent out there, a ton of good ideas, and I'm a person that's not only presented you with just ideas, but clear strategies. I would keep that in mind when you're deciding who to vote for, and I would be honored to have your support.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you all three very much for your attention tonight, and thank the audience for your attention. Let's give them all a nice round of applause for theirs. And I believe with that we are adjourned. Thank you.